Hey folks, it's Drum Phil. I thank you for joining me today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a subject that you will often hear described as playing to the room. So we did a bunch of shows this weekend. It was St. Patrick's weekend, and I'm in an Irish band. So of course that's our busiest season. And we played some new venues this year, a couple places we had not been before. So it makes it a little bit tricky. You do advanced prep by looking them up, finding pictures online of the venue inside, if at all possible, so that you can determine what type of room you're going to be playing in. And one of the new venues we were at was a winery with a nice indoor facility, but I knew it was going to be not too big of a room and a lot of shiny and reflective surfaces, so a very bright sound. So I want to talk about, three things. One, the very obvious thing is that I took my small drum set, not the big drums that I use in a louder venue. It might go without saying, obviously, to do that, but if you have the option, you take equipment that fits better in the room. Also, we were going to have a small space, so that helped, taking smaller drums. Number two, in a space like that that's lively, you're already a little bit having to be concerned about the volume overall. But when people don't know you, don't know your band, you have a new audience, they don't know what to expect. And especially in a situation like a winery, there were a number of people in the audience that were of older generations, not all just a very young crowd, we had a mix of all ages. And first impressions are important. So I made sure on our very first song that I didn't play too loud. I wanted to make sure that our first impression to them was not overwhelming. If you play very loudly and set a tone right off the bat, that it's going to be very high energy. Some people will like that, but there are other generations or other types of people who will feel this is going to be overwhelming, and it might cause them to just go pick up and leave because they don't think they're going to enjoy the show. So the first song that we played has sort of a high energy entrance after the introduction that I love to play, but I knew I didn't want to overwhelm people right off the bat. So I held back a little bit on that first song and kept it restrained, still kept the intensity of my playing and played appropriately to the song, but kept my volume level a little subdued so that people could get used to the presence of live music in that space and enjoy themselves. And then we could build a little bit over the next couple of songs. I still never, of course, went over the top, but you want to set that tone that our volume is not going to be overwhelming start to finish. Then you have access to the entire dynamic range from soft to loud throughout the night, as long as you don't just stay on the loud end the whole time. And people loved us. So that was just a small thing, the way you start. Don't smack them in the face right off the bat with your volume. Let them get used to your sound. All right, and then the third thing was the snare drum that I was using for that gig has a dot under the head in the center of the head. And I have learned with that drum and that head that when I play right in the center, that dot under gives more power, more projection to the sound coming out of the drum. It's great when you want that. But in this case, it also gave me more options for how the tones and the textures that I could get out of the drum. I used that center almost like an accent. So when I wanted a sound that was bright and that projected, I would play in the center. But very often, the grace notes and other figures that are maybe a little busier, I might have moved to the edge of the drum where, away from the dot, they don't produce as much volume. And that allowed me to very easily adapt my texture and tone and have more variance. Just like I said previously, if you stay loud the whole night, you're going to put people off, some people. And if you vary your textures and vary your volume from soft to loud, you can have access to all the dynamics and use them all. if you don't just stay in one place the whole night. That's just a good tip anyway for music in general. If it's all one level all the time, even if it's loud and you have a crowd that likes loud music, they're going to perceive that as eventually being boring or causing ear fatigue. So vary your dynamic levels from one song to the next, or from one section of a song to another section. Give that textural difference to the music. It makes it more musical, and it makes it more enjoyable for the listener. It gives them more variety to absorb and to appreciate. That is definitely a useful musical technique. And it's fun too, to be able to draw out those different tones, different sounds, different levels of projection from the same instrument, even without changing sticks. If I went from the center of the drum out to the edge and everywhere in between, I could get those different tones. And that just made it a more enjoyable experience for the whole band, so that they were not getting ear fatigue, for the listeners, for the whole room. So I just have to comment that at the end of the night, the venue loved us. They loved what we did. The crowd stayed. They had a great time. And we are being invited back multiple times. So make a good impression, and it pays off. You get more jobs that way. All right? Play to the room and enjoy it, and find your happy groove.